Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Anna Raful, and I'm so happy to be your host here of Camp Broadway's At This Stage. Thank you so much, as always, to our partners at Streamable Learning. We could not do this without you. I am here live in my apartment in New York City to bring Broadway professionals on and off the stage closer to you, to our students, our teachers, and our families. I'm so happy that you've joined us today. We've got a great guest. As you've already started, please feel free to send all of your questions. I promise I will get to as many of them as I can throughout our conversation with Krystal. So our guest today is the fantastic Krystal Joy Brown. Hi, Krystal.
Hello, everyone. Hi. It's so great to be here and talk to you guys in the isolation box that is my apartment.
I love that. I love it. You look very green, though. There, you got a lot of light coming in there.
Yes, I have a window.
Great.
And I have plants to keep my air clean as I am trapped in here. And I have a puppy. So I apologize in advance. He might bark or squeak or whatever he does. Just know that it's just my little puppy. So I'll introduce you guys. This is AJ. We'll start here.
There we go. Start here.
It's fault that I'm constantly distracted.
Yeah, I love that. So for those of you who don't know, let me give a little background on Krystal. So Krystal is the current Eliza in Broadway's smash hit Hamilton. She also was on Broadway in Rent, in Hair, in Motown, Leap of Faith, and what?
Big Fish.
Oh, Big Fish. Oh, I love Big Fish, the elephants.
A lot of high schools are doing that show. So, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And also is a star of screen and television, Disney, DreamWorks, Netflix animated series She-Ra, which is in its 4th season now. Amazing. And you also direct and have your own podcast, if I'm correct. I think I got everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's you keep yourself pretty busy.
Yeah, I try to, I realized a few years ago that, and this was like the lucky, fortunate thing that I realized, is that I'm an artist and a storyteller, and I don't have to just do it one way. I can do it in a myriad of ways. So I wanted to kind of diversify what I do, because Broadway is hard. It's 8 shows a week, it's 6 days a week, and that is kind of your life. And especially 3 hours, the show is 2 hours and 53 minutes, so it's not a little bit of a commitment. So when I was kind of in between Broadway shows and I was thinking, what else do I want to do? I started kind of investigating those other parts of myself that all still led to storytelling. And I was like, how can I do it? And I luckily have agents and representation that were like, yeah, try this, and we'll connect you with these people to try this. And I have a lot of friends that also inspire me to do other things. And they're like, you're not just an actor or a singer, you're so many other things. And as this world kind of changes, as you do a show and it closes and then you're like, okay, what's next? It's nice to have something that you do have some sort of control over, because in this industry, you just don't have much control.
Fantastic. I want to get more in that. But before we go too far into what you're doing now,
yeah,
I want to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
What's your earliest memory of theater? Like what stands out to you is when you were like, this is great?
Well, it was funny, like my mom, my sister and I, she always loved old movies. So we grew up watching all of the old movies, Oklahoma, Carousel, all of the old musicals. Carmen, I was obsessed with Carmen. I was obsessed with Dorothy Dandridge, because I was like, look at this like brown woman singing like this. And it was like amazing. So we got a lot of that. And that was like part of our big family time. But then going to see the ballet for the first time with my grandmother in Washington, D.C. was like mind blowing. And I saw Alvin Ailey. And then after that, I always loved musical theater. But then when my sister, who's like 5 years older than me, was super into Rent, and I was like, what's this? I was like, and I saw it on stage, and she made me camp out with her. I was 11 years old. I was camping out in front of the National Theater to see this, show about like these misfits of society in New York bohemian culture. I was like, whoa, this is for me. And it was the first time that I had seen this like wide swath of colors and hues all together on stage, talking about real life issues and also like being together. I was like, I want friends like that. I want a lifestyle like that. I want to like live in New York. New York's my dream city. I'm from Virginia, right outside of DC. And I was just so enamored by that storytelling and by those people and the love and the hope that it gave audiences and that it gave communities, and even communities facing really terrifying times. So it was exciting to look at that. And I was like, okay, this is something I can actually take seriously. Like I see myself up there, you know, I could see, just by seeing someone of color, I could see myself, like, it opened my eyes, you know, to the fact that this could be a real, a possibility for me. And we saw the show, we camped out, and I think we saw the show like 11 times when it was there.
Okay. That's impressive. At 11, my sister and I camping out, you know, just obsessed with the show. So that was my first like theatrical experience that really like changed my life. But we had always, the whole family had always really been into music and musicals and arts and culture. And it was like a big part of our growing up. So. And what was your first, foray as a performer, or how did you start performing and pursuing that?
So choir, actually. I was singing with the choir. I'm Episcopalian, so we don't really do the Baptist like big singing. Like that's not, like, unfortunately, I did not grow up in a beautiful Baptist church. I wish. We had to go down the street to sing at the Baptist choir. And their church went on for 3 hours longer than our church did. Ours was like 1 hour and 15 minutes, and theirs was like 4 hours. So we could go to both churches and sing. But my sister and I auditioned to be in the Washington Performing Arts Society Children of the Gospel Choir. And we got into that, and I was super young. I think I was the youngest person at the time. I was like 8 years old when I got into it. And we were singing at the Kennedy Center and doing these big shows and singing at inaugurations and all that stuff. So yeah, that was my first like gig, you know, not paid. But as you know, in the arts, a lot of times these things are not paid.
It's the experience.
Yes, but that was kind of the first time I was working with incredible. I was working with like Stephanie Mills was one of our guest singers, which is The Wiz, and that kind of like also was in my zeitgeist. I was obsessed with The Wiz, the movie and the music. So as a kid, so I was like, what's happening? And so it was like the parallels of the two things coming together. Yeah.
And then did you continue
tearing up his wee back? Hold on. Stop.
Live theater. You never know what you're gonna get. I love it.
Okay. All right. And we're back. We're gonna play with this toy and go over there.
There you go. Did you perform through high school? Did you study performing in college? What was your journey before you came to New York?
As a kid, when I saw the ballet, I was very young. I was probably like 4 or 5, something like that. And I was obsessed with it. So I went and I started taking ballet classes and dance classes and gymnastics classes. Anything, like, I just loved doing that. And my family was very supportive of it. It was not easy for us by any means, but our local dance studio was really amazing about helping me get what I needed to learn. So I did that. I did a lot of like dancing and stuff. And then of course, like I auditioned for every single musical, and then I was Cinderella in my middle school musical, which had like 200 people in it. Like our theater department was really amazing. Hayfield in Fairfax, Virginia. They were just incredible about like being serious about the arts and auditioning. And so I was Cinderella, and then I just continued to do more of that and always auditioning. And I was part of theater sports doing like improv stuff. So yeah, I started young and I just kind of kept with it.
Oh, we have another Cinderella watching. Rochelle says Cinderella was her first role too. Very cool.
Yes.
And then did you study theater in college, or how did you get to New York? What was your...
So actually my mom and I, for no like theatrical reason at all, we moved from Virginia to California, to Los Angeles. So I kind of got to spend my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade there. And I realized, New York is still the place that I want to be. So I applied and auditioned to go to AMDA in New York. And I ended up going there, American Musical and Dramatic Academy. And I wasn't like a huge fan of school, even though I was really good at it. I was a pretty good student. I just really wanted to do something that I really wanted to get out there and start performing and really working. So for me, AMDA was a good choice because I got to do the conservatory and I did it in a year and a half. And then I just immediately started working. You know, looking back now, I'm like, a 4-year program, that probably is so comforting. And like, to really like, you know, it was like theater boot camp, but you learned what you need to learn to like audition and get the job. But honestly, experience is the best teacher. You're going to learn the most by dealing with people in the real scenario of working with them and, you know, what is your worth? You know, how much should you get paid? Things like that. You don't really learn those types of things until you're actually out there working. So, you know, I talk to a lot of kids that are trying to plan their college, you know, what they're going to do next from high school to college and where they want to go. And it's different for everybody. And also it's never too late, you know, to go back and do a 4-year program, or a lot of these like conservatories are accredited. So you still have the credits, you know, so it just depends on what you want to do. But for me, I was like, I just want to kind of get out there. And then afterwards, I've taken classes at UCLA. I've taken classes like on all kinds of things that I'm like super interested in, because we can, you know, like the world is so available. So you can still do all that stuff. And it's not really like a linear line in the arts. Like you don't have a linear lifestyle, but.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then take us the next step. So then you finished with AMDA, and then how did you get your first Broadway show? What was your first
6 months later or something? It was like I was living, oh my God, I was living the most bohemian lifestyle I possibly could. I was living in Bushwick before Bushwick was kind of like safe and cool, in like a 7-person artist loft. My mom walked in, she moved me in, and she just wept. Like she just cried. She's like, why do you live in a basement? There are meat hooks on the ceiling. And I was 19 and I was like, this is exactly what I've always wanted. This is awesome. I have $300 in my bank account and I can barely survive. But you know, we were all artists and excited to do it together. And so I kind of got a manager by going to a whole bunch of different classes and just like auditions and meeting people. And then they were like, oh, well, maybe my manager would like to meet up with you. So I met this woman and her name was Roxy Horan, and she was like 82 when I started working with her. She was like old lady Broadway. Yep. And you know, and I was auditioning for things, and then I had like my first kind of big audition, and it was,
yeah. Okay.
And I remember them saying that I was really like, I auditioned, and them saying to her that, you know, Krystal's really green, but you know, we really want to take like this chance on her. But
what
I didn't do Broadway. I did the national tour.
Okay. Can you explain the green? What do you mean by green?
Green means like very new, like doesn't really know what they're doing. I mean, I walked into that audition and I did Out Tonight, and I was on their I do not recommend this for anybody. I was on their table. I was under the table. I was in the corner of that room. I was leaping, rolling around, crawling. I mean, I was doing the most that I was like, I think about it now, and that's why they're like, she's a little green, a little wild, but we think we can really like help her get her skills together. And honestly, going on tour was great because I got to learn how to sing under pressure and different altitudes. I mean, which is it's a thing. It's a total thing.
Yeah.
Singing after, you know, very little sleep. You just start to like get these muscles matured when you're dealing with the elements of always being on the road. And sometimes you're on a bus for 16 hours and then you have to get up, you have to tech, and then you have a show that night. And so that kind of taught me to have this kind of like, you know, boot camp vibe of like theater and getting it done, which I learned a lot about myself and in those moments. And so that was like that was my first foray. And I was obsessed with the musical. I was like, I cannot believe that this is what I'm doing. First off, obsessed with Michael Greif, obsessed with Jonathan Larson and this type of storytelling. I was like, this is a dream come true. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of how that happened. And then afterwards, you know, just a lot of auditioning and a lot of rejection, and then some yeses and lots of no's, and you know.
And what do you personally do? How do you pick yourself up from the no's? How do you get yourself to keep going?
Honestly, as soon as I audition for something, I try to forget about it. I try my best. And it's harder when you have a callback, because then a callback, you start fantasizing. You're like, if I get this job, then this will happen. And then I'll have this. And then then I will be able to do this. And this is my dream role. And you start going down that rabbit hole.
Sure.
It's exciting, but also can really make you feel really bad afterwards if you end up not getting it. This industry takes a lot of self-care, a lot of self-love, a lot of wellness, a lot of mental ability and agility to get beyond your own ego that is constantly fractured and constantly bruised by people saying you're great, and then now not really interested in you today. So 1 minute you're awesome, and the next minute, who are you? And that is really makes the ego very fragile for the artist. And it's very important to just have a lot of self-love, be around people who really, really do support you and love you and see you as talented. A lot of us, we've heard this whole old adage our whole lives, like, keep your enemies close, or like closer.
Right.
And it's like, no. You keep your community of people that really love you and support you and believe in you and can constantly, like, you can each be that pillar of strength for each other, because you need the community to boost you up through all of the heartache that does happen in this industry. But then there's amazing payoffs. That's why we stick to it, because the payoff can be so amazing. You can get to work with some of the people that you've dreamed of working with, since you were a toddler, and you started realizing, oh my God, Lin-Manuel, that would be crazy. That would
cool.
be,
like
that's
him.
Like he's super talented. And then
there
are days where you're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to achieve that. But it's about gaining the muscle of being resilient and a lot of self-love, a lot of self-care. I also recommend people there's this talk that Elizabeth Gilbert does. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. It's a TED talk, and it's I think it's like on creativity. It's brilliant, and it talks about how to deal with success and failure, and how to deal with rejection, and how to deal with the thing we call genius. And it's really beautiful. So if you have time, which I'm sure a lot of you do, they're all trapped.
Look it up.
Look it up and be inspired. Find as many things from other artists. Like, she's a writer, but it all connects, in this artistry, in this path of like, how do you stay sane, when one day you're on top and the next day you're on bottom and the next year on top, and it's a lot. Yeah.
Okay, I got to get to some of these questions, because
I know I need questions. Hi guys.
And I'm sure you can imagine there are quite a few about Hamilton. Go figure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Had you seen the show? Were you aware of the show?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask.
Was I aware of the show?
Were you aware of it? What was it like playing a real person? We have some questions about are the costumes comfortable? Okay, go for it.
Okay. So, was I aware of the show? Yes, I was aware of the show in 2013 when I auditioned for it. It was called Hamilton Mixtape, and I auditioned for it. And at the same time, it was the same people auditioning for Motown. And at the same time, I was auditioning for the two. And I booked Motown before I got the call back. And then I ended up getting the call back, but then they were like, not for Eliza, it was actually for Peggy.
Okay.
But I didn't know at all, like, the show, and it was a bit different at that time. And of course, no one knew what the show was going to become. And I was like, at a leading role on Broadway or a 5-week workshop. So I had to do what everyone encouraged me to do, which was take the job. But, knowing those guys, knowing Lynn and Alex and Tommy for years, I was just like, okay, at some point it's going to happen. And then I got to see the show. I did Motown with Brandon Victor Dixon, and he went in and he replaced Leslie Odom Jr. As Aaron Burr. And so he had me come see the show in 2016 in October. And I had listened to the music already, but I was blown away. I mean, it's one thing to listen to it over and over, but it's another thing to see it, because of the fact that it's like old-fashioned storytelling, because it's like an opera. I mean, it is an opera. There's very little bits of dialogue,
Right.
and also the stage is very bare. It's beautiful,
Mhm.
but it's really focusing on the actors, the artists, the words that are coming out of our mouths. It was just like, I was sitting there and I was just like, oh my gosh, no phones, nobody is interested in anything else. All the focus is right there to what's happening. And I'm learning, like, which is my favorite thing to do, is like to learn while I'm participating in anything I love. So I'm learning, I'm enjoying this music. I'm blown away by these voices. I'm blown away by the story. I was just like, okay. And you know, when you hear something is so good and you're like, yeah, I've heard, I know it's so good. I can relax, everybody. You know, that kind of complex where you're like, and then you see it and you're like, yep, it was as good as everybody said it was. It was absolutely as good as everyone and beyond, because I got to sit there and experience it. So, and then I got to see my friends performing and like getting to perform such good work. Like, you know, not everything you do is like great work. And sometimes you get things that are like, okay, and you have to try to make it great. And this is like, you have to rise to the occasion of the material, you know? Yeah. I'm not like, oof, I got to really make Burn work. No.
That does it without that.
If I just am simple and I sing what's on the page and I sing the words and I feel connected to the material, the work is done. Lynn and everybody else has done the work of making it compelling. And all I have to do is show up with honesty and earnestness to really just serve the story. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite moment that you do and a favorite moment that you get to watch in the show? A couple people wanted to know those.
Okay, so, I mean, favorite moment that I do. I mean, I love Burn because, you know, yes, I know Helpless is really fun and I enjoy it a lot. And like the whole Helpless Satisfied rewind situation, if you guys have seen the show, like, you know that we kind of like go back and see everything from Angelica's point of view. And that's really just incredible staging and incredible, like who thinks of these things? But I will say like Burn, because for me, because it's like the stripped downness of it all, like after everyone's been laughing and joking and like, oh, he's never going to be president now, ha ha ha. And like, the truth is like, someone's hurting so deeply. And the thing that women had to do, she's not talking to him. This is not a conversation she has with him. This is a conversation she has by herself because she can't express herself. I mean, this is a time when women don't have the voices that we do now and are still fighting to say how we feel about something. So she has to like let it out and then kind of close it back up so that she can continue to be a mom and continue to be all of that, all of the things that she needs to be for her family. Sure. Then of course, like the very last number also is just beautiful. You know, Eliza Hamilton was an amazing woman. And like I said,
did you do research for prepping for the role?
They definitely give you books to read and start researching. And we do like a character study or a character chat with the resident director every time someone new comes into the show to kind of talk about what you've already done in work with the material and the character, and then also like what you see in the character.
Sure.
And they are great about allowing us to kind of do things our own way. Like I'm not trying to do Philippa's way, or Danae or anyone else's exact way. They really do allow you to kind of create your own version of it. And they get excited when you have something new, when you have new thoughts, or like, oh, I haven't seen it like that. Let's see how that works. And you know, if it doesn't, don't do it. But yeah, I did research. I read the book. I haven't finished reading it because it's very long, but I've been reading Ron Chernow's book, who the show is based off of. Yeah. And that's been amazing. But really reading his writings has been awesome. Let me see. I think I have it handy. Yeah, these are the two books. So this is what the show is based off of. Just some light reading there.
Just, you know, I mean, we got the time now, but yeah.
Yeah, you have time to do it. And then his writings, because his prose, the way that he wrote was so incredible. And what he wrote to Eliza is so beautiful. And the way that she burned all of her letters. So we don't have that. But what he wrote to her was like, oh, you can see why this woman was so in love, so impassioned by him, and why she continued after his life for the rest of her 50 years to make her life about continuing their legacy, to also fight for all of the things that he stood for in her life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you're preparing for a role, we have a couple of different questions about how you approach a role now with Hamilton, with Motown, where you're playing real people, versus Big Fish, where you get to create your own role. What do you do differently? What do you do the same? Do you write things down? What is your...
I like to sit with my journal and I like to write a whole bunch about the backstory of the person. If I'm creating a person out of thin air. Mm-hmm. So like Josephine, I'm like creating like where she's from and where her family is and what she does. For Big Fish, yes. So I get to have this kind of playtime where I'm just like riffing off of how she met her husband and how it all, how this family reacts to her. Anything that feels essential, and I write in first person, like my name is Josephine Bloom and blah, 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 blah. And, I'm from blah, blah, blah. And I just go on. And it's kind of a fun exercise for me to kind of just get into the world of this character. And also when you're getting to play and just create with other actors who are creating, things change. Things change in previews, everything, the dynamic. They're like, okay, we like her really sweet, but right here, we need her to be a little bit more stern and strict. So that's, let's play with that. So there is a level of freedom there that I do love in creating that. But like when I got Diana, there's so many interviews. I was like watching all the interviews from, especially the Barbara Walters interviews with her, just everything, watching her, how she moves, the arms and the shoulders, all of these things that I was just like, ooh, and how she moves her mouth. I was just like amazed by it, I thought it was so interesting to watch those little tiny intricacies, and just like, it means so much because it's like, it's really cemented in so many people's minds. So those little things you have to get right. Playing Eliza Hamilton, she's a white woman. I am not, Right. The point of all of that is, and the diversity casting and all of that is that, we're all people. And the idea of ever trying to get a character, especially a real one, is to try to grab onto the essence of their life. What do you think are the main mile markers of who they are? What do you think? Are they honorable? Are they, why, if they lie a lot, why do they lie? If they wait, if they're hesitant, why are they hesitant? I always think of acting as psychology. It's the study of human behavior. It's the study of why are we thinking, why do we do the things that we do? So even if you're taking a person like Eliza Hamilton, like why does she burn the letters? Why does she then continue to forage his legacy? Like love. She was so in love. Like the center of her being is love. And that can be, love can also have rage. Love can have a whole myriad of other textures in it. And I'm like, okay, so I'm leading with that because she is the catalyst for why the book was able to be written, why there is the monument, for George Washington. She's the catalyst for so many things. So thinking of like finding like some intrinsic things that I can connect with on a human level that I think are about her life essence, and then going on from there and being like, I'm not ever going to give the perfect representation of what she was like ever. But I'm going to give these things about her that I love and that I think are her strongest and weakest characteristics. And I'm going to kind of hold on to those things and try to infuse that essence into the performance.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I don't have you for much longer, but I need to move into some of the other amazing things that you do. Someone was curious about your work on Shira and what happened like.
Wow. Okay. Shira, like I wanted to do voice acting always because it just seemed like such a cool job. And I love cartoons. I'm a big fan of Steven Universe. Like hello to all my Steven Universe fans out there because I am obsessed. But just other shows that I think are incredible. And I ended up getting with an agent in LA while I was in LA. And Shira kind of came about. I was, you do 1,000 of these auditions and you're in your apartment and you're like in your closet and you're saying these wacky voices and doing all these things. You're just like, I'm a lunatic in my closet. And then they were like, hey, that Shira one you did like a month ago, they want to hear you again. So I would send another tape and I was like, okay. And then I booked it, which was shocking. And then I walked into the room on our first day of recording, and I was amazed to see all these women. It was like, I mean, it's predominantly a woman-led show. It's created by a woman. It's directed by a woman. Most of the writers and artists are women. And I was just like, whoa, that is incredible. And then when I started to see what the story was about, I mean, I'd already loved She-Ra. Like, I remember it sort of, like after He-Man. Yeah. My sister watched it, so I just followed anything she did. Like, she was my idol, so I just followed anything she did. So my sister watched it, and I kind of watched it, and I was like, ooh, cool. And they were like really like these like super tall, skinny, like perfect looking women. And this She-Ra is like all body shapes, all shades, all colors. And I was like, this is awesome. And then working with like, you know, I was doing a show in Boston. I was working here in New York. So I would sometimes have to go and record by myself in Boston and New York, which was cool, but also weird because you're just, once again, like by yourself. But it's been really cool to just do that. And then also like I have more things coming down the pipeline, more shows. But also I should mention that our final season is coming out on Netflix May 15th. And it's very Natasha heavy, just for all you fans out there. So it's a beautiful storyline. It's heartbreaking. Like it'll get you. It'll definitely get you. So hopefully we'll be out of isolation by then. But if not, go ahead and binge that on May 15th. And our final
perfect
season.
Okay, I got a couple more questions. So I have a couple of young friends. Let's see, Emily and I think Rochelle and maybe Maggie. Some advice for our young aspiring, Max, our young aspiring actors. What are some advice, some things that people have told you that have helped you through these years?
Wow. I mean, I've gotten a lot of advice. I think of my mother's voice and times that I was very nervous about what's next. Like, don't give up, practice. I mean, practice even when you don't feel like practicing, do your lip trills and your hums and your, scales while you're just hanging out. Practicing is so important because you want to be amazing at your craft. You want to be as good as you possibly can at your craft. You want to, if you're a brain surgeon, you don't just go in and hack open a head. You learn, and you learn all the intricate parts of what that is. And it's the same with us. We have to learn about our instrument. We have to learn about how to expand our instrument because it's a muscle. These are muscles and they can be expanded. Surrounding yourself with people that really truly love you is also a big one that I've heard. And also, like, always bet on yourself. And another thing that I didn't necessarily hear, but I've learned and I've tried to say to anyone that I'm, especially younger kids that I'm working with, is that, dreams evolve and they change and they turn into something. Like, allow your dreams to evolve and blossom. Things will always kind of change. Like, you don't just have to, you're like, I'm a singer and I'm going to be a singer and I'm going to be on Broadway. Well, yeah, you may be on Broadway, but you may also write, you may also direct, you may also produce, or you may also do something else that's still kind of in the vein of what you do. I just don't want you to limit yourself to like a dream that you may have had at 3 years old. Allow yourself to be like fully actualized where you can find more things about yourself. And find out more things about yourself. It's really important to just like stay open. As an artist, you owe it to yourself to be as open as you possibly can to all the things that life is going to throw at you. And so allow yourself to like evolve,
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever
learned to beatbox? Sorry, did you have to learn to beatbox? But yes, I had to learn to beatbox and I'm not good at it.
How did you teach yourself? Yes. Keep going.
Like, I'm not great, but yes, I had to go, and I had so many sessions with Ian and with Alex to like get it to where they like it. That is the funny one because like I have definitely like been like staying on, and then sometimes I'll do it so good and I'm so committed that I'm so out of breath. So I'm like, take a break. There's a little surprise, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so out of breath. I'm like, I just got down on my beatbox here's my beatbox. And I'm like, oh, I have to like sit now and like go and like walk, you know? So yes, I definitely, that was a whole learning curve, I have to say.
I love that. Okay, 2 more questions. Yeah. You mentioned Stephanie Mills earlier. Who were your idols, your mentors growing up? Who did you look to for inspiration?
I mean, definitely Stephanie Mills. And then obviously Whitney Houston, you know, the greatest vocalist ever, you know, like just listening to her and trying to pretend like I could be like a fraction of how good she was. And just like, I was like, I want to sing with that much passion. You know, I also, Billie Holiday, like everyone says, like, you know, people put Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday up against each other. And I'm like, I lean towards Billie Holiday because she's not perfect. It's that raw, like earthy sound that's just like real. So she was always kind of a person that I idolized. Like I said before, Dorothy Dandridge, because without her being this glamorous, amazing Black woman in the 1930s, 40s, I don't know if we could have gotten to where we are now.
Sure.
Always Oprah. I mean, that's just always.
That's all for everything. Always Oprah.
But and Audra was my musical theater. You know, she was the person breaking also like color barriers for me in musical theater, where they were like Marie Christine. You know, that's not typically a Black character, but she was it. You know, she was breaking these color barriers, and I was like, I think I can do that. Like, I don't want to be, you know, told I can't do something because of the hue of my skin. I want to be like, I can play any role, I can do anything, and I have the same human range as everybody else. So watching her break barriers over and over and over again was like the most inspirational thing that, as a musical theater like fan and doer, that I could possibly have. So Audra will always be at the top of my list, you know.
I love that. Yeah. All right, 2 more. I lied. Memorable, do you have a memorable moment from your Broadway career so far? Something that just either you got it.
Yeah. Okay. So I did this show called Leap of Faith on Broadway with Raul Esparza and Leslie Odom Jr. We were in that together. We played brother and sister. It was like our last show. The show, technically, we were in previews for 5 weeks, and then we ran on Broadway for 2 weeks only, and we closed. And then we were nominated for the Tony Award for Best Musical that year, and we had to perform on the Tonys. Mind blown. It was the weirdest experience ever. That was weird in itself, but the moment that I'm thinking of that was like so amazing to me was, there's a song called Are You on the Bus? And I started off, and then we have a trio. It was me, Kendra Kessenbaum, and Keisha Evans, or Keisha Lewis Evans. I think it goes with Keisha Lewis now. Okay. Yes, but we had to sing this trio, and I had always wanted to sing the number a certain way, and they were like, "You're too much. You're too loud. You're doing too much. You know, you do too much with your hands." And I was like, look, this is the last time I get to sing this song, and I'm going to channel Beyonce. And that's literally what I thought. I was like, I'm going to channel like the spirit of Beyonce and Fantasia, and I'm going to sing this song the way that I really, in my spirit, want to.
Yes.
It was some high, crazy notes, like high notes. And we got into the trio part, and then we're singing it, and the music kind of slows down, and then Raul and Leslie end up having this like face off. Well, the music slowed down, and the entire audience leapt to their feet and gave a standing ovation. And we have to, me, Keisha, and Kendra had to go like upstage and face upstage. And I'm face upstage, and I'm just like this. Like crying because I'm like, and so like they can't move on with the show because people are applauding and hooting and hollering. So Raul comes and grabs me and brings me center stage and has me take a bow. And I got to do that. And then I just went back to my place and continued to sob with my like hand on my hip, trying to pretend to be sassy. And that was a moment for me that I was just like, you know, sometimes you do have to trust your artistic instincts and take that kind of risk. I suggest maybe doing it on the last show. But also it was just like, it was an amazing, when you're losing a job and something that you worked on for years and something that you really believed in, it's always hard to lose that and to lose that community and know that you're not going to work with those people anymore. And to have that little moment where everyone kind of corralled, like the audience and the cast got to corral and have that moment together. And it was amazing. It was amazing for me. And I'm so grateful to have had that experience. And like, God knows if I'll ever have that experience again, but at least I've had it that time.
It was a great show. I enjoyed it a lot.
You saw it?
Yes, of course. It was so good. Okay, last question. So Camp Broadway, who is one of the presenters here today, our motto at Camp Broadway is develop your character. And if you don't mind, right before we leave, what does character mean to you?
Character means to me, it means having integrity. You know, it means having a lot of heart. It means being honest and vulnerable. And honesty is really hard. It's really hard. Someone asked, like, how do you fake cry? You know, and that's hard to do. And sometimes you have to pull it out of yourself. And sometimes you have to reach those parts of yourself that hurt. And you don't want to hurt yourself while trying to like make other people feel. But it is about connecting the truth of what humanity is, and also listening to yourself, listening to your instincts, listening to what makes you feel good and what makes you feel bad in any type of situation. Like really having the best understanding of yourself is what's going to make your character interesting, unique, and something that people are going to want. The more authentic you can possibly be, like, we don't need the Idina Menzel's, that slot is taken, you know. Right. We need the yous that are very intricately, specifically you. And that is important. I stress that because we so badly, we listen to these recordings over and over and we go, I gotta sound like Philippa, I gotta sound like Lynn, I gotta sound like, no, you have to sound like you. You have to sound like the unique artist that you are. And the more that you can focus on that, then I think that the more hireable you will be, the more that you will fall deeper in love with yourself and have a better understanding of your own tools, and where like you need to do some more, you know, where you need to do some more work. So it's always a self-investigation, being curious about yourself and who you are, and also keeping integrity, honesty, and practice.
Practice. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm so appreciative. Where can people follow you, find you, all that good stuff?
On Instagram, it's at Krystal Joy Brown, just my name. Also, you can go to thekjb.com. That's my website. Also, since we're in this period of quarantine, if you guys want to have private sessions with me, if you want to have voice lessons with me, where I will definitely sing, and all of that, I have my piano. I play piano a little bit, and I play guitar. You can book with me. So just go to my website, thekjb.com, and or you can email instinctprose@gmail.com. Yeah, we'll put it all.
I'll put it in the, tell me what it is.
So thekjb.com, and then it's also instinctprose, PROS, @gmail.com.
Okay.
If you want to, you know, maybe book with me, we can talk anything. We can also go through voice lessons. I go through more of an operatic way of opening your voice so that you can sing those crazy high notes, belting, mixing, all of that without hurting yourself, because you are, in the Broadway world, you are an athlete. So you have to train like an athlete, and that means expanding yourself. So please, you know, reach out to me if you guys want. You can also DM me on Instagram and we can set up a time, or just if you have questions further than this, reach out. I'm around, literally. I am here 24 hours a day with the puppy.
With the puppy.
Right
awesome. Here. Thank you. Thank you, Krystal. Thank you everyone for watching. Tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow we have same time, We have Jenna Gavigan, who is a Broadway actress, singer, director, and most importantly, a novelist. She has Lulu, the Broadway Mouse, and she has her second book coming up at the end of May. And so, I'm sorry, at the end of March. Just kidding. What month are we in? The end of March. It's coming soon. So I'll be here tomorrow to talk to her same time. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Krystal. Bye, puppy.
Bye.
Great day, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.